Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Battle Rap Resume. This is your host, Tom Kwei here. Follow us at Battle Rap Resume, support the show, leave us a review on iTunes, go on to Patreon, send us an email, battlerapresume@gmail.com. One of the things I used to do a lot more was on Ask BRR episodes where I'd go through fan mail and fan hatred and correspondence and whatever, and that doesn't really happen as much. Maybe it's my fault. I don't upload as much on Battle Rap Resume, but I still love doing the show. And one of the things I love about the show is listeners will get in touch and they will throw ideas at me and we'll come and do the episode, and today is a great example of that. I'm really looking forward to getting into Battle Rap sins. We are live streaming this as well, so everyone listening, please drop your sins in the comments and myself and the guests will go through them towards the end of the episode. Everyone listening as well in the future on YouTube, on iTunes, whatever, put the comments down there as well. I'm sure this is going to be a sort of intermittent ongoing series. Putting this on Twitter, putting this on Facebook, I'm trying to compile the best ones, and there was an absolute outpouring of peccadillos, which is a word that I just learned today means kind of minor sins. That's quite a cool word. Shout out the synonym function on Microsoft Word. But today it's going to be myself with someone who was on the show before. He was on briefly. I met him and his girlfriend at the academy. James, how's it going, man?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on again, Tom. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for the idea. Because you literally came to me out of nowhere. Let's do this sins episode. I know you're a big fan. You've been following the scene for years. Has this been gestating for you, or?
Well, it has been gestating, but sort of unconsciously kind of thing. So I've been sort of unconsciously compiling my list of annoyances, and then the idea came to me when I was listening to Commode and Mayo's podcast.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Do you listen to it?
I used to like it a lot. I've got to admit, I love Commode. I want to beat Simon Mayo to a pulp. I think he's the most prudish, uninteresting, most apt surnamed ever man. He literally is Mayo. Are you talking about their what's it called? Their code of
compliance.
Conduct. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cinema compliance for anyone
right.
For anyone who doesn't know, they have a list of things that are acceptable in the cinema kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it just got me to thinking about the things which I guess I consider unacceptable within battle rap. And then because you always say if you want to come on the show.
Yeah. And
I was sitting around waiting for a haircut. Actually, I thought, screw it, I'll just message Tom and see, and here we are.
Exactly, here we are. So today we are looking at both major and minor sins in battle rap. We aren't really talking about Danny Jack's fry up or stuff like that. Although, I guess, in a sense, I'm sort of touching on something we will get into later, forum in-jokes and the like, But let's just get into it. What really gets your goat? What really pisses you off in battle rap?
So, are we starting at the top?
I guess whatever you want to throw out there, James, I'm happy to vent.
Right. I'll tell you, bugs me, what the genesis for this whole thing is this whole sort of I didn't write a third culture. This whole, I only prepared yesterday, I wrote my bars in the car on the way up to the event, this whole thing. And I entirely blame Charlie Clips for making it acceptable.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think that it massively holds the scene back. And I feel we're always talking about how can battle rap get bigger? How can it do this? How can it do that? I think if we're at the stage where the artists aren't taking it seriously, why should anyone else? Mm-hmm. And it really bugs me because to me, battle rap is my football. I've never liked anything competitive, never been interested in anything like that, never understood why grown men scream at a TV screen. But since getting into battle rap, I get it now. And whenever it's that sort of, people choking through a third or even worse, making light of the fact that they didn't write one, it irritates me to my absolute core. Because I just feel how can it ever advance if it's, perceived as something that you don't need to take seriously even when you're a part of it?
Yeah, and that has metastasized as we've gone on, where you have battlers that won't even try for any rounds. They're just here for the bag. I think one of the most glaring examples of that was Raptor versus Crafty.
Horrendous. Yeah.
Like really horrific and embarrassing and cringy. And people talk about ginger, rapper, virgin, whatever, lol, cry emoji. Like, fuck off. Like, you were paid to battle Crafty, and you didn't do it. Like, and it's kind of like, I don't know what the heroicism in that is. It's just, it's a sin. It's lame.
It absolutely is. And I mean, the thing is, like, it results in things like Premier Battles Season 2 Match Day 1, where, apart from maybe one or two people, no one tried. No. And with, like, with a spot at Apex on the line, you've got, some of the biggest names there in the building, and people still aren't trying. Mm-hmm. It really, like... I don't know. I just don't think that kind of attitude exists in any other art form. You don't go to a gig and the band's not written, bothered completing the last 3 songs.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's so dispiriting, and it really it does undermine your experience as a fan. Like, Bobby Rex's third against Scoop is kind of a recent example of that, which he carried on the sheer force of his personality, but still, it's just... you're totally right. It's not something you want to see. These are people that we really admire. They really put the time in. And I understand, you do 2 rounds, 2 long rounds, whatever. The third, you can kind of mess about a bit more or something like that. But that is a definite sin, not closing out the job. Like, powerful third rounds are archetypes in battles. They're narrative setters. They can set the story. They can switch things up, and kind of just having a bit of a damp squib it's always disappointing.
And I always think of Cortez against Pat Stay's best friend. His name's gone.
Holohan. Oh yeah, what a third. Yeah, Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah. When a third is done well, it really should be the peak of the battle, because it's the last thing you remember. It's the thing that really sticks in your mind. And I think it was Major Concerns was talking about his battle with LS Dean, and he said that he wished he made his third the most impactful of the 3. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, some effort needs to go into that third. I understand that, battle rap is a very sort of like, it's an odd art form. It's completely mercurial. You get to do it once. And so therefore the sort of like, the amount of preparation that goes into it versus the amount of time you get to do it. I understand it's a massively pressurized situation, but that's a situation you're putting yourself in if you're a battler. And I just feel like if people are going to take it seriously, then artists need to take it seriously.
I mean, talking of taking it seriously then, my sin, although there are some caveats to this, there are some guys that I like when they do this, but for the most part, I do despise it. What do you think about battlers reacting to their own bars?
See, I quite like it. I'm quite a big fan of people who laugh at their own jokes.
Right.
That's maybe one of my sins in my personal life.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I've got to say, that's not one that. Can you give me an example? Who you thinking?
Oh, that's a good question. Who am I really thinking? Like
Danny Myers?
Well, that's the thing. I love when Danny Myers does it. I love when Danny Myers throws his hat to the ground, literally roars, and his neck cranes like a diplodocus across the camera. And Saurus as well does it. Tony does it. Yeah. I guess it's more just like shitty tryout battlers that like feel themselves. It's just kind of like... But then again, comparing it to music again, if a guy's into a solo and he's headbanging doing it or riffing or whatever, that's fire. So I don't know. I guess it's sometimes when the material isn't deserving of the reaction, or they're trying to garner that from the crowd when it never really was there. Like, we've heard your Buckingham line before, mate. Like,
oh God.
Which is another... I mean, all these sins blend into... Like, it's a huge tapestry, isn't it, of depravity? Like,
it is. It's awful. I've got to say, just before we get into Buckingham, the thing on that thing that you were just talking about, that it just makes me cringe, and it doesn't really matter who does it, is when someone says something, they drop a bar, and then they go bars at the end. We know it. We know that's bars. You don't need to inform us of that.
No. I mean, like Arsenal versus Soul, when he did the Jedi's line, and it's like, well, we've seen Soul versus Most Prob, and that was the Great Jedi's line. And I think Most Prob said it himself. He was on stage and whatever. But yeah, it's just, like, you know, the battle rap crowd, it's kind of similar to, like, you know, a lot of people talk about Shakespeare and are like, oh, how Shakespeare was so complex, but the crowd wouldn't have got it. But it's like no one could read back then, so everyone could listen. And it's kind of like that with battle rap, like our ears are to a higher pitch. You know, we can detect the multitude of bars there. So yeah, it's almost pandering. You know, it's flabby. It's kind of bluffing out the round. But I mean, we've got to put a whole thing on Buckingham, right? I mean, that is there's so many Buckingham bars.
So this is probably my second biggest annoyance. American battlers who come over to the UK, and I think they've done their research and they've done a good job by saying, I'll go Buckingham and make your princess die.
Yeah.
And the first person I remember saying it was DNA.
That's
and
right.
I cringed then, and I've cringed every time anyone said it since.
I'm pretty sure DNA said, like, oh, you'll do a Big Ben when I give UKs.
Oh, God. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So when I originally came up with the idea, I thought the sins were automatic L's. That's kind of what I had in my head, and I wrote to you and I said, Americans doing local references, can't stand it. But then I've got to say that Losso versus dialect is proof that if it's done well, it can still be good. Because I think the way Losso did it was amazing.
Sorry, so Losso, do you mean? No one's ever called him Losso in the history of battle rap. I just had to. That is a sin of itself. It's Loso.
That is a sin.
Yeah. That is a sin though. Like mispronouncing battle rappers' names, and you know, there's loads of those that escape, myself included, definitely. But no, you're right. Yeah. What did he say? He said something about Manchester United. The I can't remember what the exact line was, but yeah. So it did work. It did work. Yeah. And like, I mean, you know, think about Arsenal versus Shotty rocking the Arsenal top. Like that was fire when he unzipped.
Yeah, that was
like. It wasn't really a reference,
but battle.
Is that the high point of the battle? I think Shotty sort of Rain Man bars are good. I think Arse's backwards alphabet scheme. But no, I know what you mean. In terms of pure energy, that's probably the high point of the entire fourth birthday. Like,
definitely. The crowd reaction is insane.
Another thing I want to point to, which, you know, I guess you sort of see in, I mean, you see in every fucking battle, but you see it in fourth birthday as well. Annoying hype men. People, you know, the crews overreacting to the bars. We saw it recently in Hoffa versus Hollow. One of my all-time favourite battles in the history of Don't Flop is kind of ruined slightly by it. JB versus Dank Schrader. You know, it happens. I get that it happens, but it's kind of an annoying byproduct.
Yeah, it's awful. I can't remember the two battles in question, but there was Youth Oracle versus someone.
Oh, is that with his brother?
Yeah, that was his brother, and then he wrecked the battle, frankly. And then I love the fact that in the next battle he did, he sort of like addressed his brother and his mates in the crowd.
That was so
I thought
good.
That was
that was against Matter at Distinction when he did that. Yeah.
Well remembered. I feel like the annoying hype men are worse across the pond, though.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's few and far between here, but you know, a lot of the URL battles they can become unwatchable.
Some of them certainly can. Bangs, who recently got loads of props from Chris Brown on his Instagram, which is pretty crazy. He was quite notorious for it. Gwitty as well, coming from that We Go Hard school. You know, there was a lot of that talk that shit. You know what I mean? And I've got to say, I have actually done that myself. I remember seeing DARPA battle at Chalked Out in Concrete, and he dropped a Megadeth bar, and which no one got, and I was like, talk that, killing is my business and business is good shit. Which no, everyone looked at me like a cunt, which is fair enough. But I had to say it anyway. And sometimes saying that, talk that obscure subject stuff, whatever. I mean, let's talk about crowd participation as well. Is that sinful for you? Can that be overbearing or?
Crowd participation is. I love a hype crowd. As we've seen from KOTD, when the crowd is dead, it doesn't matter how good the battle is. But then when the crowd are over, when they're reacting unnecessarily, or they're reacting. I really hate this when they reacting to bars that they're not necessarily got. You know, there's that you know, it's in the delivery, one person gets it, and then you get that sort of that spread across the crowd kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, Sunburn 2 kid, that blonde kid.
Yeah.
There's loads of timestamps on all the battles where he doesn't get the bar but then reacts like mad at tense. I need to interview that guy. That would be a great episode. Like, if you're listening, hit me up, man, with your one palmed chest beat. I wanna know about you. But yeah, you're right. I think the crowd are an inherent part of battle rap, of course. But I guess it's just sometimes ad libs can go a little too far. Like I remember going to a Don't Flop event. I think it was when I battled 142, and it was kind of the era of the Soljitsu ad lib. Like he was very skilled at it and obviously very naturally funny, witty guy. And said before the battle, like, if you're not Soljitsu, do not talk over the battle. Like, and it's like, everyone wants those 15 bars of fame. Like,
yeah, I remember. I think it was the first day of Distinction.
You went to Distinction?
Yeah, I went to the first day.
That's crazy.
That was Tony Definition, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was at the first day of Distinction.
So you saw Yunnan and Chris Lees versus
that was on the second day.
Was it? Okay.
That was the second day. We missed it. Did get to see Tony Def, which that was amazing. I had Def winning it that day. However, pretty much the first thing that said to the crowd, because this was the era of Uno Lavos, says that if anyone who isn't Uno says what else, I'm kicking you out the building.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, exactly. What else is a good example of that?
Yeah. Can we get on to crowds? Let's get onto the sins of the crowd. People talking during a battle.
Oh, fuck off.
People being loud at the bar during a battle. Why would you go to a battle rap event and talk?
Yeah.
Why have you paid your money, turned up, and yelling throughout the whole thing? It's infuriating. And when we went to the Academy Day, I've got to say that progressively throughout the day, I started to feel a little bit sorry for Briggsy, because before every battle he had to say, hold it down. I'm sick of asking people to hold it down. I just think that the crowds need to be more respectful.
But he was asking battlers to hold it down as well.
Yeah, that's...
What the hell?
I mean, it's bad when the crowds do it, but when the people who are part of the scene, the battlers,
when the members of Premier Battles teams, and yeah, it made me cringe. And like, I love Briggsy, and I did really feel for him and the team, because it was just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And often it is people talking. It's just the friends that have been brought around for their battle, or it's their cousin's battle or something, and they don't give a fuck about Lazy Ass Jack. You know what I mean? Like, and like we do, but like most people don't. And yeah, you're right. The talking is just. Because it's so selfish though, because it's ruining the future quality of the footage, like JB versus Jay Short, which is outside, and which I did sort of talk through. I've got to be honest, but I've told you. But like you listen to certain battles as well, and I know King of the Dart have like the worst crowds as well. Like Organic's always saying, if you talking at the bar, keep it down, blah blah. People are selfish. A lot of people, like the battlers themselves, they don't necessarily care that much about this thing. It's not this holy tenet for them, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of battlers talking during battles, I won't say who it is, but when I was watching Tony Def, there was a certain battler who throughout Definition's entire first round was screaming, "Definition's a racist," standing right next to me. Made it difficult to enjoy. I'm
going to guess that was Chris Lees.
I don't have enough standing in this culture.
Right.
Shame, but...
I'm just going to throw that out there. And we're just going to go onto the Facebook now, the Battle Resume Facebook. So I posted the thing back up today just to see what people thought, and we got some comments here. Liam Short saying referencing people on the forum is the worst. What do you think of like the in-joke forum joke? I mean, it has kind of contributed to the inertia of the views, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think this is the problem with battle rap. It's very, very insular, and referencing people on the forum, because it is, we do have that sort of like level of interaction with the battlers, and the forum is like it's a big part of the culture. I get why people do it. It doesn't bother me per se when people do it, but it's definitely something that is going to put off potential new fans. I can totally see where he's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm not really as interested in forum stuff. I just think like battle culture in general, like it is very self-referential, and I like that about it. Obviously, because I do this fucking podcast, but you know what I mean. I like the sort of levels, and a lot of it can be witty. And it was a really interesting epoch-making moment when Callum from the forum battled.
Yeah,
and obviously it was referencing the Don't Flop forum, not Viewpoint at the time, or UK BRG that it's gone on to be. But yeah, I don't know if that's the worst thing, but I totally understand why it's hard for us, isn't it, James, to watch these battles with neutral lenses. Like, we just have so much knowledge, so much, like you mentioned football before, like, anyone that's followed the team knows every academy player for the last 20, 25 years, like, all this sort of useless stuff that you appreciate. Michael Clay saying wrestling bars?
Yeah, so as I said to you when I was on before, I've never understood a single football bar, and I know next to nothing about wrestling bars, so I can I can empathise, because it is a bit exclusionary, but I don't know if it comes up enough for it to be bothersome personally.
No.
Because it tends to be one of those things where you get certain battlers like O'Shell drop a wrestling bar, but it's only sort of once in a while, and then he moves on to something else. So if it was like, proliferated, if we went through a sort of like a period of, wrestling,
just an era of wrestling bar.
Yeah, exactly. It's mum joke. Wrestling bars are the new mum jokes. That would be problematic. But I think they're sort of like, they're rare enough where it doesn't bother me personally.
No, it doesn't bother me either. It's just tapping into that niche knowledge, like football, or like, I love the Wire bars, and I love literary bars, or Simpson bars, or, and like, I do appreciate them as well. Like, I've learned, I'm not really a wrestling fan, I don't dislike it, it's just not really my bag, but I've learned a lot about it through battle rap. I've learned a lot about basketball through battle rap, like, you know what I mean? I've learned a lot of players, I've learned the flu game. Tom Fowler saying, hosts that aren't smack speaking for more than 10 seconds.
Hosts that aren't smack speaking for...
Yeah, so I guess he's saying sort of lower tier hosts trying to be, you know what I mean? Trying to be personalities when really the battle should just be the battle.
I guess he's being a bit facetious there. I would say people like Lush One, Organic, they're also in that realm, that can just go on, and I'll happily listen to them. Yeah, I'd put Mickey in that as well.
Yeah, definitely Mick.
Mickey's probably my favourite ever battle rap host, I think.
Wow, Mickey over that is...
I like Mickey. I know he's, I know he's had his moments, but I find Mickey really entertaining. I know what you're saying. I think Mr. 13 was a good example of when... hosting goes wrong, unfortunately. Great guy, fantastic episode. Amazing battler.
I love that episode. People go back and listen to that episode.
It's one of my favourites. But I guess with the hosting, you've either got it or you haven't.
I felt that myself with when, much smaller level, when we did BR in the park. Like, I just had no real personality on cam. You've got to have that sort of... You've got to have that intrinsic magnetism, you really do have to. And someone like Organic, for example, he's very different to everyone else, really. He's a great guy, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say he necessarily projects a real persona on screen.
I don't think any of them do.
Lush does. I'm not saying that that's not him himself, but like that is a character. Like, it is quite an engaging presence, isn't it, on screen?
I'll give you that. I find Lush a bit cringy.
Okay.
That you know how often when he'll host, he'll sort of like he'll do the, a couple of bars at the end of it.
You got a stigmata from a witch doctor. Yeah.
Oh,
you don't like that?
Not great. And it's nowhere near as cringe as that mirror thing.
Bishop Brigante. Yeah.
Bishop Brigante with that bloody mirror thing. I swear, if I ever attended a King of the Dot event, I'd refuse to say it. I'd refuse to join in.
There was a battle, and it was, I think it's like Saurus versus Definition or something. Did a freestyle battle, World Dom 2. It's got like no views, and it's in this really cheap club or something, and there's giant mirrors all around. And Bishop introduces the battle, and the top comment is like, the only time Bishop was around mirrors, and he actually didn't take them down. So, you know. People, I think it was Saurus versus. I think me and Def have spoke about that. Shout out Gully TK. I don't mind Gully, but yeah, Bishop is. He's not. I don't want to diss the guy, but just like what he projects isn't that likable, I suppose.
Yeah, and Gully saying get some merch for your girl.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. Yeah, I'm starting to warm up to the comment from the Facebook user actually.
Okay.
The quality of hosting in Battle Rap is not great.
No, I think for the most part. But it doesn't really have to be, does it? I mean, it's literally battler to my left, battler to my right, follow the Twitter. It doesn't need to be much more than that.
But then it does add something to it when it's done well. I think, you know, back when he was into it, I thought was a great host. You know, when he hosted well, I think it really brought something to it.
Yeah, no, he definitely did, yeah. And it was just, you know, I don't mean this in a weird way, but like smile as well. You could tell that he really loved this thing, and that was really, you know, compelling for it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that if the person at the top of the food chain in it has got that passion from it, and you know, and they're projecting that out, it's sort of. I don't know, it sort of like cements the whole event. Because you know how we were talking about people reacting to bars they don't really understand? Mm-hmm. There was this, you know, the golden era of Don't Flop had the effect, which I know you've talked about before. If reacted to a bar, then a couple of seconds later, everyone else did.
And his laughter carried as well. Yeah, like sometimes you just hear him react to a bar. Like the 5th birthday, you know, when Shuffler were talking about how good friends they are, and they say like sketch and censor, and you hear him go mad over that, and that just makes it all the better.
Absolutely. You know, like maybe that is something that could push the culture forward. Actually, getting hosts with that bit of magnetism in there, maybe that's something to think about.
Yeah, Jonathan Smith in the comments are kind of backing up what we said before. One of the sins for him is people talking through battles and league owners doing nothing about it. I think I was pretty hot on that though. He did tell a lot of people to shut the fuck up. Like, you know, that did come through. Jay Ferguson saying battlers who clearly don't deserve it being given big plates.
Give me an example. Who are we saying here?
Wow. Okay. Now you're putting the UKBR podcast host on the spot here. I don't know. You know, I guess people might talk to like Clips, for example. You know, has fallen off for a couple of years, but always gets those big Euros. But at the end of the day, it's a business. He's going to move pay-per-views and tickets. You know, that's just kind of how it works.
See, to me, Clips in and of himself is a sin. I think he's one of the worst things to happen to Battle Rap, really? Unfortunately. At one point, he was during the era, you know, during the Serious Jones era, he was phenomenal, but he's lazy. You know, when he came up against Harry Baker, he didn't even know who Harry Baker was. You could tell because there was a point where he said, I should have researched you more or something like that. And just this, I'm completely agree with the comment, actually. Just this idea that when you get to a certain level, a certain name, that you can do whatever you want, put in zero effort, and still get big battles. I think it's a real indictment of the culture. And to me, I might be completely wrong, but to me, he's patient zero for this lazy approach of not bothering to write for battles, taking 900 battles a year and putting in zero effort and still being one of the biggest names.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like Stadium Rock to a certain extent, kind of inoffensive, you know, the mass appeal. Him versus B Magic is a good example of him phoning it the fuck in. He like B Magic's name is June apparently, and he does this whole calendar scheme for like 32 bars, and it's like bullets will march into June. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? So yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I think Clip still has that persona. He's a very funny guy. You know, I interviewed him. We did a top 5 Harry Baker rounds recently episode, and we spoke about that. And I'm not so. It doesn't really matter that I interviewed him. What the fuck does that matter? But like, it was cool to me. I just wanted to drop that in. But yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, and I understand that. And that ties back to what we were saying before, isn't it? Not writing a third, the laziness of battlers that really galls me.
Absolutely. I think if when we started off, and you said, what's your top one? That's the worst thing about it. That's the key problem. It's the number one sin to me, the laziness, because you can tell when someone hasn't put the effort in, and someone who's capable of being amazing, they just can't be asked anymore, or they didn't prep. Don't do it. If you can't be asked, don't do the battle.
Yeah. Because
not only do you sully your reputation, but you sully the entire company to a small extent, in my opinion. What took place with Koj versus Raptor, the effect that had on Premier Battles. I know that wasn't necessarily laziness, that was drugs, I think. But the effect that had on Premier Battles, when you get up there and you don't put any effort in, it adds a little stain on the company and the whole of Battle Rap, just in my personal opinion.
Totally agree with you. And Joe on Twitter, kind of repeating what we said before, the new craze with fans who want to be involved, talk about that XYZ shit, which I am guilty of, pulling the battler's shirt, pushing them, and that happens a lot. The collar being risen, Milltown Blow did a lot of that shit. Joe also saying, when an opponent turns away from the guy who's rapping, it takes away from the performance for me. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's incredibly disrespectful, and not in a kind of enjoyable, entertaining way. I think it breaks the tension of the battle.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it did result in Sharon saying to Shotgun Shug, "Look at me when I'm killing you."
Sure.
One of my all-time favorite battle rap moments.
Oh yeah.
But I think, I don't know, the only reason I can see that people have for turning away is that they can't take what the opponent's going to say to them. Surely if you're putting yourself in this forum, then part of the contract of a battle is to have someone do their bars at you. Yeah, completely. I think massive sin, huge sin.
Yeah, I think I remember Eddie I at Empire or something getting out his Nintendo Switch when Jay Short was doing his rounds, and people checking their phone, or people talking to their entourage, or Hollow versus Math, when Hollow went over to his guys to have a powwow and Math sort of broke that up admirably.
Yeah.
And
I've got to say, the one example of it I do like is Daylight getting the pillow out versus Math Offer.
Right.
I enjoyed that immensely.
Yeah, I mean, for all these sins, there are exceptions, certainly. But yeah, you want that drama, don't you? You want that animosity.
Absolutely.
It's all fictional. We know this. It's pantomime, which kind of brings me to another sin that pisses me off. Battlers who get annoyed with what's being said to them. This is the contract. This is what you agreed to, and it's not okay. It can be based in fact, of course. Bars can get quite personal, but I think I said to you guys when we were at Academy or whatever, there was a girl that I used to go out with in Manchester when I was really into battle rap, and she just couldn't deal with it. She couldn't deal with the mom jokes, and I said to her, it's everyone's mom. It's not the opponent's mom. It's not my mom. It's an archetype it's a piñata, that's being used as creative writing practice. So for people to get annoyed by it, it just makes me sort of roll my eyes a bit. It's like, do you really understand what this is? Why we enjoy it as a exhibition of talent? I don't enjoy it because someone's being really fucking nasty to someone. I mean, that's part of it, but that's not the core reason.
Absolutely, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it cringes me. I do a whole body eye roll when someone's just said a bar, and then someone sort of does a little snarky response to it, or says, "Oh, don't do that."
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
If your ego is that fragile, you cannot battle rap.
Mm-hmm.
That's that again. It has to be part of the contract that you can accept someone saying things to you. I mean, that actually sort of brings me on to another sin.
Mm-hmm.
dead relative bars, anything like that, I think it's just, I think it's a little bit pathetic if that's the
Yeah.
only thing that you have to say. Because I don't really like it when when someone isn't battling the battler, they're battling one of their family members, their girlfriends. Like, I'm really sick of hearing Tory bars against dialect.
Hmm.
Had enough of that. There's no what are you saying? You know, is the best bit of ammunition you've got about someone else. I think it's lazy, and I just think dead relative bars. There's no clever way of doing it. You're just going in for shock value.
No, you're right. You're right, and I think maybe if there is too far in battle rap, that's going to touch a nerve. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and there's lots of examples of that throughout, really, and it can be a bit far. Like Tox versus Wilsey. I know 100 Bullets versus Arcane in the third mentions Arcane's sister, which I think was kind of fictional, but still was pretty fucking far. Going on to the Twitter then, Tom Worth, who is co-director of War of the Words, War of the Words, sorry,
Wow.
not War of the Worlds.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, shit. I think Spielberg directed that. War of the Words, which was the wonderful UK battle rap documentary kind of set around.
Fantastic documentary.
Yeah, brilliant,
Enjoyed
right?
that immensely.
Really, really good. We did a great episode as well. Great to speak to Tom. He says, his sin, spending half your round bigging yourself up and not addressing your opponent. This is an unpopular opinion, but in Shotty versus Tony D, Shotty basically spent his first round and a half talking about himself before he actually addressed Tony in a meaningful way.
This was on my list. So my girlfriend is brand new to battle rap. She'd never seen it before we got together. I showed her a few battles, and she's really, really enjoyed quite a few of them. And I was hyping up Soul versus Gemini coming out on YouTube. It's going to be amazing. And we sat there and watched it. And by about halfway through Gemini's second, she said, all he's doing is talking about himself. Why is he talking about himself? What's that got to do with him? And by the end of it, it almost became a little bit unwatchable. Just because, when people are talking about themselves, what does that have to do with the opponent? And these, like, this new strain of struggle bars where people are talking about how they've struggled in various aspects of their lives. What has that got to do with the other person? I completely agree. I don't mind someone bigging themselves up if they're doing it in like a funny, witty, slick Rick, over the top kind of way. If someone was to do that, I think that could be quite an entertaining approach. But someone who's just talking about themselves, no interest in that. It's really self-indulgent, and it kind of says you don't have anything to say to this other person.
Yeah, that's the thing. Gemini's very good at doing that normally. Like the Yunnan battle, the Tox battle. Yeah. I mean, arguably the Shocks battle, but that was kind of a different approach. But yeah, you are right. I mean, it's the breaking down that I'm really into. I mean, I'm someone who's really into scheming as well, which isn't really about an opponent. It's more of just, you're displaying your own virtues there. But no, Tom, I think that's a really good sin there. And another interesting one came via Twitter from Mona Lisa. She said, long ass wait in between battles. We shouldn't have to wait more than 15 minutes in between battles, which, I mean, talking about football again, an event should run like a football match, shouldn't it? You turn up about 2:30, you leave after 5. Like, no one's got a sound check, no one's got to prep equipment, just battle.
I went to the first day of 5th birthday.
I was there as well, yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I think it said 1 on, it was scheduled to start at 1. I'm pretty sure it started at 3.
Yeah.
And then there was 3 battles.
Balski versus Mr. 13, right?
That's right, yeah. And then after Enigma and Eek and Most Problem Rapunzel, I think there was about an hour wait, maybe more.
I think you're right,
and it took the fire out of the event completely. It really, it's just such a damp squib. And the worst part of it is you've been waiting around and waiting around and waiting around, and it's about an hour since anything last happened. You go outside and there's people involved in the event outside smoking, having a chat. They're not rushed.
Yeah.
You know, it's this, you know, an event should not run that way. Do you know what I mean? I know there are problems and things do happen, but they don't happen every time an event's on. And I remember your episode with Bagnall when he talked about how the pay-per-view coming into Battle Rap really worried him because he realised what the day was actually like for the fans attending, and he said, why would people go to all this effort, wait around for hours and hours when they could just watch it at home? It is better in the room, but the day experience can be grueling, frankly. I think that's
we seventh birthday, I don't know if you were there, but the first day was fucking horrific. Like we were on our feet for so long.
Which one was seventh birthday?
So that was like you had Gem Dialect, Shotty Clips.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah. Oh man, like the guys know how to run events clearly, and I know RBE are doing this where they do like 4 or 5, and it's like a 2-3 hour thing, and that's what you want. And look, it's not a codified thing. I understand that. At the end of the day, it's it's a few guys with cameras and battlers and YouTube channels, whatever. But it just would be nice to have that opportunity to just, because it is cool as well to smoke and drink and hang out and all that sort of stuff. But kind of when it's these big battles, you kind of what you put down hard cash for. It'd be nice to just see them on time, just see one every half an hour.
See, and the problem with these massively long breaks is that people get bored, so they drink, and then they get drunk, and then by 2/3 of the way through the event, they're really loud and rowdy, and that really feeds in to crowds talking over the battles and not paying attention. And when was talking about how he's going to restructure future events and put the best battles on early, I can totally see that, because I've attended events where what should theoretically be the best battle of the day, it's kind of been ruined by the crowd, but because they've had to stand around for so long and they're bored and hammered.
Yeah. And going back to the Twitter, we have a lot of points that kind of reiterate what we said before. Shawnee B focusing on what you were saying about Soul versus Gemini. I'm not a fan of the whole "my life's harder than yours" angles. Rapping about how gangster you are and not actually addressing your opponent isn't battle rap, in my opinion. Put it on a track and fuck off. Address your opponent.
I like that a lot.
Jonathan Smith, who was at the academy with us, shout out John, saying battlers or battle rap personalities chilling at the bar, then thinking they can push to the front of the crowd when the battle starts. Fans ad-lib. Yeah, I mean, that is bad, right?
That drove me up the wall. I'm a nerd, so I'm there, and I want the best position. And we got there, during the academy, we got ourselves in the position as close as we could get without being creepy for a good, 5 minutes before the battle started. As soon as the cameras came on, just like another brand new front row just appeared in front of us, and it happened every time. And it's infuriating.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. We're the guys paying. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
absolutely.
Bowski, shout out Bowski, absolute legend, saying some of his sins: reading off the phone, biting bars, not prepping, and being shit. But 1,000%. I mean, Bowski, shout out Bowski, always prepped. He was prepped at the fucking Shrewsbury event. It was a nightmare that guy didn't show. What a letdown. And Bowski saying, but 1,000% he finishes reading off your phone. I mean, that is a no-no, right?
It's what I was saying before. You get into, what battling is before you get into it. There's a contract in this. You learn your stuff. What other art form does this occur in? Where else is it even a thing that someone's like making it up halfway through, or they're doing the rehearsal in front of the crowd? It's just not acceptable ever.
Just before,
I was going to say, I can accept that every once in a while it's going to happen to everyone. You have a memory blank, and if someone just really super quick checks their phone during their opponent's round just to get that first line in their head, I can excuse that, because we're all human, we're all fallible. But when it's sort of like people scrolling through constantly because they've not put that effort in.
Yeah.
Not okay.
No, I remember one of the chalked out events. I think it was when Shuffle battled Chris Lees. He showed me one of his tricks that I think someone else had told him, where you screenshot your next round and have it as the lock screen on your phone. So you literally just need to click the button and then you're good to go. So that's
genius.
Not to undermine Shuffle, the genius. Shuffle, I should say, who's coming on the show next week. We are going to, preview his rhyming dictionary and help to hype up the fundraiser. And it's crazy to see how successful that is already. But yeah, I think scrolling through the phone, I mean, Connor Ainsworth, young crumpet, great friend of the show, awesome dude. Saw him at the academy. I think he's had 2 battles where he's read off his phone, like, to perform the bars. And that's literally the equivalent of going to the West End and the actor, like, holding the script as they act.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not... Which, when you put it in the context of another art form, you realise how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. It's...
battle rap is this weird thing where we let so much of this go. And I think, like, it's testament to the fact that, you put this out there and you got such a massive response about how we're not taking care of this amazing little, subculture. We got one of the few real, genuine subcultures that exists in the internet age,
Yeah.
And we're not taking care of it properly by putting enough effort into it. Can I talk about something I hate?
Let's go.
I shagged your girlfriend bars.
Okay.
I absolutely hate them. And what I hate about them is that people I love will do it. So, Real Deal, one of my favourite battlers in the world. I watch anything Real Deal does. Mm-hmm. Him versus A-Wood. I think it was pretty much his whole second was I shagged your missus.
And
why?
His second against Soul as well was totally against his missus as well. I mean, not shagging her, but yeah.
But this whole, like, I shagged your missus thing, you obviously didn't, because if you did, then, something would take place. Do you know what I mean? So what is it you're saying? Because, like, to a more or lesser extent, I think, like, a good battle rap persona has authenticity to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, when Shocks has been... when Shocks has been, really aggressive and violent, you feel that comes from some sort of genuine place, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. I mean, Shocks has definitely murdered several people. Like, I have no doubt about
that. And then, like, Harry Baker is as much of an effective battler because he's completely authentic with his personality coming through. And that's one of the things I love about battle rap. It's a completely open space for anyone who's bringing their authentic self to the stage. But this whole thing of I shagged your missus, it's nonsense. It obviously didn't happen. So why are we saying it? Why are we allowing that to go through? And then it often leads to my most hated bar of I connect with your Xbox, which I've heard at least 100 times, and it's never been witty. It wasn't good the first time it was said, and it won't be good the next 100 times it's said.
I consoled her. Yeah, it's always part of it.
Oh, God.
I played a game with her cubes, and we've heard millions of... Yeah, right. I mean, that we can throw that into cliche part. I mean, the Shag Your Ex thing, I'm not a giant fan of it. I think you can get some funny sort of... It's kind of a conduit for sex bars more than anything, and just kind of going into that realm, and there can be some pretty witty stuff there. For me, it's, I'm going to kill you. I don't know why. Obviously not going to kill each other. And that can lead to some incredible material. It's just, it isn't quite as much of a sin for me, but I totally see where you're coming from. Yeah. And it is one of the most played out things going, probably the most played out thing going, that you've slept with her and done whatever. But I'm thinking of like Danny Myers, who did like, Dan Brown, who did like Da Vinci Code and stuff. He did like a scheme of his novels about fucking Chilla's girlfriend. And that like, it like blew my mind. Like it was like, that was some parallel universe stuff. But yeah. As ever, Danny is the exception. Just before we get onto the live stream comments, which we've got quite a few actually, please keep them coming, guys. Any other big sins you want to just put on the table?
I think I've said the ones that really really get on my nerves. I really dislike blatant cipher bars.
Oh yeah. Hate
I
that.
just think, because I knew a guy who tried out a while back, and he was amazing rapper, real, great personality. I thought he was going to be absolutely amazing, and his whole second round was something I'd heard him do 1,000 times. And I just thought, it's lazy. Again, for me, the ultimate sin is laziness. So yeah. Anything? What about yourself, Tom? Anything that we've not mentioned yet?
I think most of it we've got into, really. We've covered quite a lot here. See, again, some of the sins I read, I'm like, I actually kind of like that. Like, I did put down, like, battlers being too respectful, like when you dap up after a bar or something like that. But again, I like when Danny Myers does that, so it's like...
Yes, I quite like that. My favourite example of that was, I don't know if you remember Raptor versus Lady Shaka.
Yeah.
It was a grime clash, and I thought Lady Shaka just came out of that battle just so well. Sort of like respectful little chuckles during Raptor's round. I quite like it.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I don't mind it, actually.
I think if it's authentic for that person, to if they're the sort of person who would laugh at that kind of thing, I think I quite like that. Because people just sort of standing there Solomon Screwface throughout the entire thing. I don't know. I find it a little bit try hard.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So we'll go to the live stream comments now. We've got quite a few, as I say. Top Sin J2 to P UK says, a male MC touching another man's junk. I think this happened in in Shuffle and Marlow versus that is the top one, apparently. You ultimately lose an MC battle if you touch dick over balls as a man. So there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, recycling other MC's lyrics verbatim. That, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, I think Jay-Z did that, and Prez Mafia did that as well, where they did like whole rounds of mixtapes with other people as their like second and third rounds, which is yeah. Also mentioned by J to the P UK, phone calls in battles. What do you think about using the prop of a phone?
Automatically I go to shuffle. I love it. I love shuffle to concept rounds. I think, as with a lot of what we've touched on, it can be done well.
Yeah.
Like I said to you earlier, I don't think a lot of these things are automatic L's necessarily, and if they're done well, I think it's it can really add something to it. Dialect did one fairly recently, didn't he? Is that right?
I don't really remember. Probably. I don't recall him doing one, but I've not seen every battle. But
yeah, I might be wrong, but I seem to remember Dialect doing one and it being quite entertaining. Again, yeah, I think if it's done well, there's definitely a place for it. If it's done badly, completely agree. And if it's someone who's just trying to be shuffle, then forget about it, because we've seen people attempt to be shuffle and it never works.
Definition saying one of the biggest sins is doing a podcast about battle rap where you could critique battle rap and you then flop in your own one. So Thanks, Steph. I guess the biggest sin in battle rap is soliloquy versus Bison Briggs. That was an aberration. That should not have gone down. But no, appreciate the dev. Laughers Talk saying battling via Skype is pretty rough. I mean, I can only really think of DNA versus Troy Brown, but that was horrific.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. Yeah, let's. I'm glad that never caught on.
Jada the P mentioning those two girls in the crowd. Do you remember the
Yeah.
What was that for? That was 8th birthday pre-party. Oh, they were bad. They were bad. I was there. I led them to the event. I met them outside. I obviously didn't know them, but we were sort of stumbling across together. And they said, "You're going to the battle event." I've never felt more guilty.
Yeah, cringy fans. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess cringy fans is kind of a whole thing. Yeah, we can definitely focus on. And I need to do an episode soon. I've spoken about it before. Like, just not even cringe fans, famous fans. Like, especially in Don't Flop battles, there's people at the front of the crowd that you just remember.
There's a guy who always wears a backwards cap, and he's got like long blonde hair and a beard.
Right, I'm not sure who that is.
He's in the front of so many videos. It's become almost like a little bit of a meme in my own
in recent ones, in recent scenes.
In all of them I've ever seen.
From the WRCs to Premier Battle. Yeah, who is this guy? He
was at the first ever battle.
Yeah, he was at Kruger versus Sensor. He was in that alleyway. Yeah. He was in that underpass. Yeah.
He's a guy with like long blonde hair, beard. He always wears a backwards cap, and he wears it. You know the rap T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
He wears that in quite a lot of them, and it's like I say, I introduced my girlfriend to battle rap, and he's been at the front of quite a few of the battles that I've shown her. I think he was at the front of Premier Battles as well, and he's always at the front.
Okay. I'm sure I'll recognise him if you point him out to me. Going back on the quotes, I mean, a lot of people are sort of reacting to stuff we said earlier, saying that Lush one was entertaining. Oh, Sketch and Censor, someone's quoting as well from there. Lots of cringy hosts. J to the P UK saying, I'm not a huge fan of Bagnall's reactions. What are your thoughts on his?
I love Bagnall's reactions. It kind of makes me it makes me feel like I'm there when I watch it on YouTube. I know it's controversial, but that's something that that before I'd ever been to an event, when I was watching it, like rabbit holing it on YouTube, that was something I picked up on, and I really liked it. I think it makes it feel like quite raw.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What are your opinions on it?
Yeah, I enjoy it as well. It seems to have got breathier as he's gotten older. you know what I mean? It's less laughy, like, and no diss to Bagnall. Huge respect to Bagnall, great dude. But like, it does stick out, and like I hate to feel that I was part of it, because when came on and did the explains, like that was a big section of him going into Bagnall's laughing and stuff, and it's one of those things that like a pin drops when you actually hear someone talk about it, and then you kind of can't not hear it, and but you're there live in the room, and like in the crowd, you react to bars, you laugh to bars that aren't even that funny, but it's just because the electricity of the performer in front of you, everyone around you, you've had a few beers. I know Bang will probably be quite sober, but whatever, it does overtake you. So I can't say it's a sin. I can't really say, and I think a lot of it adds to it as well. Like laughing, like had Luminous on the show recently. We covered him versus Stephen Kang, some sort of minor, when Don't Flop went to the US, and you can hear Kruger laughing behind the cam, and it fucking warmed my heart to hear Kruger. You know what I mean? Like there's that's part of the ambient sound of Don't Flop, like as much as the 5th birthday beat or any of that, like.
I like it.
Yeah.
But I can see why people don't. And again, if you transpose that to another art form, like you wouldn't hear camera crew reacting to what's taking place in other art forms.
True.
But yeah, for me personally, I totally agree. I think it adds to the ambience. I really like the stage jumping as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think Soul versus C Major, he fucking ruptures that stage. Like,
he did, yeah.
It's
quite like electrifying to see it in the room. Like when Bagnall sort of like stomping around, something's taking place.
So, that pretty much wraps us up here on the sin count. Again, I want to urge people listening, if you listen to this, in the future or on YouTube or whatever, comment down below or get at me at battlerapresume. What are some of your battle rap sins? It'd be great to go back and, do a further census of what people think are the peccadillos, as I say, of this art form. And, obviously we love this thing to death, and we're pointing out the minor foibles, kind of like, like cinema sins or something like that, like kind of playing with that, like, hating it because they love it sort of thing. So, any final sins, anything you really want to get off your chest about battle rap, James?
So I think I'm done catharting, but I do want to say, kind of like, this was when I sort of like first approached you about this. It wasn't meant to be in a sort of like a negative or
Yeah.
nitpicky or a trolling kind of way. It's more kind of like, I love this thing to death, and I just want to see it done better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So what's your top sin? What's your top takeaway from this, Tom?
I think it's just battlers not trying.
Yeah, that's mine too.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of battles that I've seen that have just been let down by, that are so exciting on paper and don't deliver, and whatever. Like, it's a superhuman Herculean effort to battle rap, and I fucking suck at it. So I appreciate people who are good at it, and whatever. But yeah, I think and honestly, a lot of the sins we mentioned kind of boil down to that, don't they? Really, like just not putting the effort in.
Yeah, that was going to be my one as well. Like, if I could crystallize it down, it's laziness.
Yeah.
And laziness is what is holding it back from what it could be or what it should be. Mm-hmm. Because there's no reason why anyone who appreciates performance, appreciate words, wordplay versus, this it's something that could be, it could have a big market. It could be a career for people. And yet, there's a core of just laziness and not trying that is holding it back.
Well, again, let us know in the comments down below. What are your sins? What have we missed? What do we need to get back to? This has been Tom. You can follow us at battlerapresume. Get in touch with me, battlerapresume@gmail.com. If you want to come on the show, like James here, if you've got an idea for a topic, I am in the line to record some more episodes shortly. Patreon is there. If you want to support, you want to give back, patreon.com/battlerapresume. iTunes is also there. Please leave us a review. Go back through the archive. We've got hundreds of episodes over there. Check out some old BRRs you might not listen to. Check out the Battle Rap Resume Mr. 13 that we mentioned before. That is a really good episode. Definitely one of my favourite episodes I've done in the last few months or so. James, anything for yourself? I think you mentioned to me before you might be starting a podcast, or...
So I'm considering sort of taking all-time favorite albums and sort of like dissecting them track by track and just going into the reasons why why that album is a real standout for me, and then maybe inviting other people on and sort of like they could recommend me an album I've never heard before, give it a couple of weeks to listen to, and then sort of like debate the various merits of it, where it's someone who's really got a lot of knowledge on that particular album and me kind of as the newcomer to it. So yeah, that's something that I've got in the works.
Sounds cool, man. Yeah, and you've got to have me as a guest. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we had some quite heated debates about music at the academy.
We did indeed. Yeah. So yeah, this has been great. When James brings out his podcast, we will put the links out there, and I will push him to do that because we need more podcasts in the world. Absolutely, certainly about music and criticism, stuff like that. So yeah, this has been Tom. Thank you to everyone as well on the live stream for commenting, for contributing. I really appreciate that. But we will see you sometime soon, I'm sure. James, thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me on again, Tom. Cheers.